DinoBite,
A
right.
DinoBite. There it is, DinoBite.
Welcome back. Today's topic is about hard work and if it means anything anymore. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, I know this is a complicated question, but I definitely think that hard work is going to always be important, although it may change. And I know where you're getting at with this one. It's specifically, the takeover of AI and the efficiency that you can just type in a prompt and then get an output. I think that and maybe this will change in the future, but for right now, it is definitely for the novice in their field. I find it very difficult to use ChatGPT or other large language models to get the information that I need. In the same way that I often find it difficult to search the internet to find answers because whatever I'm doing is so unique now that it's not like I'm solving a problem that one, I already know how to solve those problems. I should, as an expert, already know how to solve those problems that are easy that you go through school and learn. By now, it's like I can't even find information on the stuff that I'm trying to do most of the time.
So I can see what you're saying if you're looking forward, if you're trying to create new content. But the fact is, most people aren't trying to do that. Most people often do repetitive tasks, often do, even if it's not repetitive, they take stuff they've done in the past and modify it a little bit for a new situation. And I think for most people, the value of hard work is definitely going to change. It's not going to be valued as much because a lot of what we associate with hard work is sticking to a task and keep repeating it until the job is done. And not too far into the future, that's not going to be what humans are the best at. That's going to be something where AI and robotics can just do that a lot better. And the same, for example, used to be a hard work could be taking care of a farm, waking up early in the morning and doing whatever tasks, getting the hay, feeding the cows, all that. All of a sudden, if that's automated and you don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning, something else can just do it immediately. The value of repetitive work is I really can't see a way where it wouldn't be less valued, where there's something else, some other technology that can do it better than a human can.
Yeah, and I do think that, but we're talking about the individual, not the process. And I do think the process will change per se, and it depends what field you're in. But eventually, all fields will adapt to new processes. But to the individual, now let's just even take the farmer because I think that that is such a um, like untechnical field that seems like it would be easy to automate and the farmer wouldn't have to do anything. But now he's got time to do other things. And like, how does he outcompete his competitors who are doing the same thing? How does he create more value? Because now, through that process, the cost of creating the product that he wants to do, whether it be food or something else, the cost of that's gone way down, which will then be forwarded to the consumer. So he's making less money because the process doesn't cost as much. And regular competition is going to come around and lower the prices because the guy next to him can say, "Hey, the process is lower, and I'll put that to the consumer, and they'll want my product more." Supply and demand, whatever. Regular economics will force some sort of some sort of change that will put the individual above the rest, so that they can get the sales. That's
So
what we're going to
I
change.
Yeah, I see that as proof that what we call hard work is going to change. That's traditionally been the concept of, putting in the time and the effort. But all of a sudden, I think the value, what the economy will pay for and what other people will value is that concept, figuring out how to make things more efficient. It's not the actual technical hard work. And I don't want to say technical, I want to say like the brute force, the actual work. I don't think that's going to be as valuable as putting in the prompts or putting in the directions or the guidance. And I
But
think
here's
that's
what
already
I'm
changing.
saying is, yeah, I think we're just you may be looking at this at a different perspective. It seems like you're talking a lot about the industries, and I do think that there's going to be industries that people aren't going to be involved in anymore. But for what hard work means for an individual, they're just going to have to find new places to find work because there's always going to be work to be done. I mean, there will always be an edge and there will always be enough room for everybody, to try to advance and make their life valued. Um, and it just changes how we do it, and what actually the emphasis on. And maybe we don't need, and I'm only talking my own industry, and like in computer programming. Maybe we don't need the lower level things, but the one problem I think is going to happen, like the lower level programmers, is as kids are growing up with the ease of being able to not learn subject matter and allow AI to kind of solve it for them. There's going to be this gap between people that learned the lessons and learned all the things that they needed to be experts, and then everybody else that kind of didn't go that path, didn't take, because you can do so many things to make your life easier, but in the long run, in the big picture, it ends up making your life harder in the end. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem for the individual, and how they're going to be able to create value in their life.
So I agree with you to an extent. I think there are going to be people who look for that next edge. Like, okay, I can't do this. I'm going to move on to this. But I also think that, especially with the generation you're talking about that gets used to technology doing so much for them and not having to learn how it works or what they need to do to support it, I think there are going to be a lot of people who are hesitant to enter a new field, to try something else, to find their edge, because, and this is probably the hottest part of my take. I think that people are going to lose that motivation because they're going to say, well, what's the point of learning a new trade? What's the point of learning a new thing? It's just going to be replaced by AI anyway. It could be a matter of 5 years, 10 years, but I don't want to put my effort forward. I don't want to work on this and work to get better because it's just going to be wiped out anyway.
See, I disagree on this.
Mhm.
I think that what you're looking, yes, and of course with change, I think that a lot of people in the current generations will get caught up in this. But I think that as the system changes to try to accommodate for these new processes, um, it's going to change how people are learning and how people are viewing the world from the bottom throughout their entire life. And just in the way that schools are now having to adapt to chat gpt and these types of technologies to try to ensure that when their students leave their institutions, they're not idiots,
Mhm.
because one, they still need to find jobs, and the schools themselves are valued on being able to allow you to be a successful. I mean, people are paying to go to these schools. They're not paying to go to these schools. I mean, some just pay to go to school, but
Mhm.
the parents or whoever's paying for it are trying to install value into the individual, because it's very difficult to create value on your own terms. And these are just institutions that kind of guarantee that value. They still need to guarantee that value. So, however they're going to do that, however they're going to adapt to the system that in the end, the person still needs to have value to be able to enter into the economy, to be able to make money, to be able to support themselves. And so, if they get out of school and they've basically copied every single paper off of ChatGPT, and they don't know how to write a paper, they don't know how to program a thing, they're not going to get a job. Nobody wants those jobs are gone. And as those jobs keep
Yeah.
going away, I think it's really interesting that everyone's like, oh, it's all going to change because you can become a prompteer or something like that, like where you
Mhm.
just put a prompt in and you get some sort of answer back. And people have been using form letters, and it basically is going to get rid of all the people that were resting on technology before to make their job, like they just sit at the job and they copy and paste all day. Those people are gone, which is good because they weren't doing enough anyways.
Right.
Now they need to get in gear and figure out how to become an expert and how to create value enough for the system to want them.
But don't you think that a lot of the same people who are trying to become experts in a new field or in something that is profitable right now, or they anticipate will be in the future, don't you think they're going to be scared off by the fact that other people who did that their whole careers, they got replaced in the blink of an eye? Don't you think that fear is going to settle in and change like the motivation? Like part of why people go to college, part of why people go to professional school is they think when I do this, spend 4, 5, 6 years doing this schooling, when I come out, I will be rewarded for that training and then get a good job. But if all of a sudden you see other fields where they've been doing it 10, 20 years and then instantly they're replaced and they're out of a job. As that keeps rolling, I think you take a lot of that motivation away from people finding new fields and working harder in their own fields.
I mean, I think, and you're talking about the laying down thing. Like, I don't know if you've heard of this, and it's very prevalent in Japan and I think China, but this idea of laying down, like just not doing enough, not doing work or doing the bare minimum of work that you need to do to succeed. But I mean, it's or not doing any work at all, just like minimizing your life.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, you can. There's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to do that, but there's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to do everything. There's going to be a certain amount of people that are going to. It's hard to say, but I think it should be a motivator. I think that this might put the fire behind people and increase their drive. One, a lot of these tools that are replacing them actually do enhance their capabilities. So
True.
the amount of work for somebody that is um, utilizing these tools correctly and not just trying to ease their life, but actually trying to move faster, trying to be more efficient, it doesn't change the amount of work at all. It
Mhm.
just makes the amount of work that they have to do. I mean, they work the same amount of hours a day. I work the same amount of hours a day, even if ChatGPT is there. But I'm getting more done,
Right.
which is great.
Yeah, I think there's a split. I think you've clearly identified a split. Maybe we're both the reason we're disagreeing to an extent is we're talking about different groups within that set. I think you're correct, and I agree with you that people are motivated and willing to push and at the edges, they're going to be enhanced by this AI and other technologies that come out. But those who are used to, I put in 8 hours doing repetitive work and I get paid a certain amount. Once they're replaced, if they're so used to that system of just putting in the work and getting paid, putting in the work, getting paid, once that changes, once they can't do that anymore, I think they've been doing it for so long, it's going to be really difficult for them to apply it somewhere else. And more importantly, I don't think they'll have the motivation to do it because it's so foreign to them. That concept of let me find my own way rather than just accepting the role that I had before.
Yes and no. I so there, of course, with change, there's always going to be some people that are going to get lost in the change. But with these, the empowerment of the individual is unprecedented right now. So if you wanted to learn a new field, it is possibly the easiest right now, especially with ChatGPT. For you have basically a tutor that's there 24/7, doesn't care how many questions you ask it. So you have more support than ever to try to adapt yourself to the system. So it really comes down to the same problem that you have in the old system is self-motivation, right? Being
Right.
able to get up, and there's just going to be a certain amount of people that aren't going to be able to put their foot forward and be able to drive harder to get to where they want to go. I think a lot of another problem with this and a lot of fear that I think a lot of people have is the increase of competition over the same amount of jobs.
Mhm.
But and the reducing, there's a reduction now. It seems like there's a reduction in jobs because all these people are getting fired. But what isn't being kind of conveyed is the amount of jobs that will be created, from this same revolution. And I think with any moment of change, you're going to have jobs that are going to be created and there's going to be more need. It's just the quality of human is going to be higher because you now are expected to not only have your own willpower and your own knowledge, but also the willpower and knowledge that the ChatGPT gives you. So people don't want somebody that is going to use ChatGPT to fake their way to make it. They want people that are going to use ChatGPT to make it.
Right. No, and I agree completely with the motivation aspect. I think my issue with it is those people that don't have the motivation, it's only going to get more difficult for them as time goes on because they're going to see other people shifting and figuring out how to do it. But they're not going to have, if they didn't already have that confidence to find out their new path, I think it's only going to get more difficult to see their way in the future that A, they don't understand, and B, is happening so fast, it's hard to pick the winning horse. And I think over a long period of time, you're right. I can't disagree that over time, people will realize this is not a replacement for work. This is something that can enhance what I'm already interested in or what I want to do. But in the short term, I think it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of people who are disillusioned because of the rapid change.
Yeah, but I think that with that fear comes the fire. You know, I mean, there is a survival instinct in all of us, and I think that through this, and it's change is scary. It's scary the first day you go to school. It's scary in so many portions of our lives, but it usually ends up being a good thing. When you allow for change and you aren't stubborn and you don't try to run the system in the same way that it's always been run, usually it'll benefit you. But maybe, as through economics and, like, because if there aren't jobs, but you have to be a better human to get the jobs that are out there, maybe we'll get better humans.
Yeah, I could see where you're going with that. I personally think that the number of people who are going to be comfortable with this change is small compared to those who will not be comfortable and will kind of. I feel like there's going to be a resignation kind of for a lot of people, not everyone, for a lot of people saying this change is happening. I can't do anything about it. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll just try to exist and just wait for someone else to give them a solution. And I think that aspect is making me feel hard work is going to change. The nature of it is going to change. But I definitely don't think it's for everyone.
Yeah, maybe that's needs to be built into the system, and maybe robots take care of those people, and whatever. It just, yeah. With every change, you're right. There's going to be some sort of thing that did not happen smoothly, that needs to be taken care of, but the system will work. We will move forward as human beings, unless we destroy ourselves. But if that doesn't happen, I think we're going to be okay. You know.
I think we're in agreement there. Cool. That was a DinoBite.
All right. Cool. Yeah.